Hello everyone, welcome to the channel Pharma Focus. I hope you guys are great. And this is going to be the last part of ICH E2A guidelines that we have been discussing till now. And this video is, before we begin, a quick disclaimer. This is just for the educational purposes, and I'm just trying to summarize ICH E2A guidelines based on my understanding, and I'm not representing any regulatory authority. So let's begin with today's video, which is going to be the last part. If you haven't watched all of the videos yet, the previous parts, it's in the playlist that I've created and you can check on that. Alright, so let's begin with today's part, which is going to be the last part. In the previous video, we discussed about managing blinded therapy cases. Today we are going to discuss about the miscellaneous issues. Alright, so miscellaneous issues. Now, reactions associated with active comparator or placebo treatment. So I will be just summarizing what is written here and you can read it from the guideline, of course. So the very first point here means that since we all know that in clinical trials there are the patients or the participants, study participants, they may receive a study drug or the active comparator, as we discussed in the previous videos, what an active comparator, what a placebo is. And therefore, if an ADR happens, what is listed here states that if an ADR, it happens with the active comparator, like another real drug if given, then sponsor must report it either to the manufacturer of the drug or to the regulatory authority, which is stated here. For the active comparator, we need to report it to this. Then, if the event happens with a placebo, it is usually not considered as an ADR and therefore there is no expedited reporting. The another major point here is this one, which is if any kind of ADR it happens with a placebo, then you do not need to consider it as an ADR and therefore there is no need of the expedited reporting. So that's the very first point. Second point is a very big one, but I'm again going to summarize it in a short manner for everyone, which is products with more than one presentation or use. So we know that there are various drugs and these drugs, they can exist in different forms, right? It can be one presentation of product means a dosage form, formulation, delivery system, or the product use. So categorizing it into the two things, same drug, it can exist in different forms like tablets, capsules, injections, or any kind of other drug delivery systems. And it can have different uses. That is, it is used for a different indication, a different disease, or in a different population, that is the different patient group. It can be an adult, an adolescent, an infant, etc. So, this is what the first point means here, that an ADR that qualifies for the expedited reporting with one presentation of the product, it should be reported or referenced to the regulatory filings across other product presentations and uses. So what this means is, based on the different dosage forms, based on the different uses, the safety profile, it can differ in each case. So the rule is that if an ADR, it needs an expedited reporting for one form or for one use, then it should be linked. It should be cross-referenced to all the other forms and uses. Then if I go into the detail of this, why do we actually need this? We need to do this to avoid any kind of missing of the important safety signals. So this can cause over-reporting, of course, but over-reporting is acceptable and under-reporting is not. At the end of the day, the pharmacovigilance, the drug safety professionals in this field is all about reporting and bringing any kind of risks into the limelight as early as possible. So this is very important. Other than that, in this point only, it is stated that expectedness. So they have talked about expectedness here. So Expectedness is usually product or use specific, and different versions may have different expected ADRs, right? So for let's say there's a topical formulation, it can have some maybe cutaneous or topically related ADRs. Similarly, for if the same drug has a formulation of a tablet, it can have various expected ADRs. So that is what it means. So so expectedness, that is, can be product or product use specific, and therefore there are separate investigative procedures that are used accordingly. And the post-study events. The post-study events uh, is the next point, which is that if adverse event it happens after the trial is finished, then how we are going to treat it. So let's say if an investigator reports a serious adverse reaction, a serious event, then it should be treated as a normal trial SAE. And what do we exactly need to do is we need to look for the causality assessment and determination of expectedness to decide if the expedited reporting is required or not. So even if the trial it ends, the serious event it must be evaluated like the active study cases. So that is what comes under the post-study events, right? Then we have F point, which is informing investigators and ethics committee, institutional review boards of the new safety information. This is generally about the communication of new safety information. That is, the sponsor, they need to update the investigator brochure regularly and inform investigators and all the other linked people in the studies. So, investigator brochure, as we discussed, is a living document, right? So it needs to be updated once we know about the latest safety data. So everyone involved, they need to know about it. Then we have this key data elements for inclusion in expedited reports of serious adverse reactions. I am not going to discuss about these. You can go through these. I'll be posting the link of this particular document in the comment section below, and you can check it out. So this majorly involves the patient details, the suspected medicinal product, other treatments if any, details of the suspected adverse reactions, details on reporter of the event, administrative and sponsor company details. So that brings me to the end of ICH E2A guideline. But now, in continuation to this, we are going to discuss about some of the interview questions that are based on ICH E2A majorly. I've tried to cover most of the questions, but yes, there can be many other questions related to it. So let's go through the presentation. So now let's discuss about the ICH E2A related interview questions. So the very first question that we have is a major question which is usually already asked, that is, what is an adverse event? So any untoward medical occurrence in a patient or clinical investigation subject administered a pharmaceutical product which does not necessarily have a causal relationship with this treatment is an adverse event. Then we have another question, which is what is an adverse drug reaction? So, as per the ICH E2A guidelines, I have written the answer here that in the pre approval clinical experience with the new medicinal product or its new usages, particularly as the therapeutic dose, may not be established. And in this case, it is defined as all noxious and unintended responses to the medicinal product related to any dose should be considered the adverse drug reaction. And for the marketed medicinal product, a well accepted definition as per WHO is a response to a drug which is noxious and unintended and which occurs at the doses normally used in the man for or in the human being, for the prophylaxis, diagnosis, or therapy of the disease or for the modification of a physiological function. And then another major question which is usually asked is the difference between the AE and ADR. So AE is event may or may not be related to the drug, and ADR is event has a reasonable causal relationship with the drug. If we talk about the difference between seriousness and severity, then seriousness is usually based on the outcome that we discussed during the ICH E2A guideline. It can include death, life-threatening hospitalization, disability, congenital anomaly, or other important medical event. And severity is the intensity of the event. It can be mild, moderate, severe, regardless of the outcome. So these are two major questions which are usually asked based on the differences between AE and ADR and seriousness and severity. You must know this. Then we have another question: when should a case be reported as expedited? So since it is about the expedited reporting, it has to be serious, it has to be unexpected, and there is a reasonable causal relationship to the drug. Minimum validity information is available. I would like to reiterate this here that this is in reference to the ICH E2A guidelines. So if you're answering someone about all these things, you can, give a reference of ICH E2A guideline when you are answering such questions. So what are the reporting time frames for ADRs? So this is majorly in relation to the SUSARs that we ICH E2A is about, clinical safety data management that we discussed. So the fatal or the life-threatening SUSAR, initially it is no later than 7 calendar days after the first knowledge, and for the follow-up cases it can be within 8 additional calendar days, and any kind of other serious unexpected ADRs have to be in 15 days. Then next we have what is in an investigator's brochure and when it is updated. So investigator brochure is a comprehensive, continuously updated document. It compiles all the relevant clinical and non-clinical data on an investigational product to guide the investigators in human trials. And when it is updated is whenever a significant new safety information is available that may affect the benefit risk assessment, trial conduct, or informed consent, then it is updated. Then we have the next two short questions. Should reactions with placebo be reported? So we just discussed this in this video itself, that usually no, placebo events, they do not qualify for ADRs or expedited reporting. Are post-study events serious events reportable? Yes, they should be treated like the study events, and causality and expectedness assessment are required. We discussed in this video only. Last question is what is a SUSAR, which can be usually asked in the interviews. So when we look at the complete definition of this, SUSAR means suspected unexpected serious adverse reaction. So first thing, starting with this, an adverse reaction that is suspected to be caused by the investigational drug, which summarizes suspected. The next we have it is serious in nature, which can be fatal, life-threatening, causing hospitalization, disability, or other important medical events. So this is the seriousness part, which comes up from here, SUS. And then we have unexpected, which is it is not in consistency with the information in investigator brochure or product labeling. Just as we discussed what expected is, what an unexpected event is. So similarly, this suggests that the suspected unexpected serious adverse reaction. So this gives us the complete definition of a SUSAR is. And I hope you guys find the video useful. This is all for the ICH E2A guidelines. We will be beginning the another guidelines shortly after this. And do give it a thumbs up. Keep supporting the channel. Do subscribe and share it with your colleagues if you feel so, or your batchmates or your friends. Thank you so much.